Tennessee's offensive line seems to be in good hands with David Sanders Jr. and Sam Pendleton in the mix. And while the offensive line has question marks up and down, having those two in the mix, plus the other guys they brought in from high school or the transfer portal, or even the ones that they've developed in house, gives that position group a chance to be dominant once again in 2025. And then when you consider the quarterback situation, that position group certainly can't risk taking a step back in production this season. I'm Paige Dower. This is the Sports Page on Full Disclosure. There seems to be like this sense of ease around David Sanders Jr. in regards to the idea of whether he'll start or not this season. And he certainly has made strides from when he early enrolled until January up into and through here week 2 of fall camp, and his ability to put on weight, get a grasp of the system, and get a good feel of his footwork and technique out on the field. But even through those strides and leaps that he's made in his development, there's not been this heightened pressure that he's felt that he has to start day one or he has to be this really impactful player for Tennessee's offense starting week 1 against Syracuse in just a couple of weeks. But, of course, if he continues to progress in the way that he certainly has a chance to be somebody that Tennessee can rely on to provide valuable and viable impact for the team. We can go back to when he came here in January, and he talks so much about like how he really has benefited from enrolling early. In fact, he ended up talking himself into like a recruiting pitch. So like all guys who are contemplating whether they should come early or not, you absolutely should. I think one area where maybe if we just go to like the physicality standpoint that he probably has benefited most from actually comes down to just his body, like being able to be with like the dietitians, nutritionists, and like the weight room, and being able to like really curate his diet and work plan to put on weight has been his biggest benefit. I mean, when he first got here, like in January, and they were doing like their winter and spring workouts, truly like he was kind of getting tossed around a little bit by Tennessee's defensive front. And now that he's been able to put on nearly 40 pounds, he says 38 specifically, he certainly feels like he's like held his own. And I think in his ability to get to this 305, 308 range really proves like how dedicated he is, how quickly he can adapt to the system, because like the initial goal was 290. And he passed that, and then it was 300, and now he's like fluctuating between 305 and 308. So now when last week in week 1 he was doing some one-on-one drills with the defensive line, he was able to hold his own a little bit better, but still guys like Dominic Bailey were certainly giving him the works.
Going against Bryson, going against Josh Joseph, Caleb Heron, David Hobbs, like those are some of the best guys in the whole entire SEC. So I go against them every single day, and they're going to get me better every single day. So going into Saturday, I know that I've been prepared with some of the best players, so I'll be able to be ready for whoever I have to go against.
But still, at Sanders' heaviest, he's certainly still on the lighter side amongst SEC offensive linemen. I mean, in my deep research that I was doing, you could go and look for, like, who are the best tackles in the SEC and who are those outliers. Well, one of the main outliers would certainly be junior tackle and Caden Proctor from Alabama. He checks in, I think, at 366 pounds, okay? You compare that to the true freshman and David Sanders at 305, 308. There's a significant difference, and they're only like an inch apart in height. So Proctor's 6'7", and then according to Tennessee's roster, Sanders is 6'6". So among guys that are of the best in their position, he certainly has a long way to go when it comes to being able to put on weight. But when you maybe do a little bit more research, it does appear that average weight maybe is like the 315, 330. So he definitely, like, he's aware that he is on the lighter side when you look to the offensive linemen across the SEC. But his dedication in the weight room and his ability to like improve his technique, I think also stems from his ability and want to be a film junkie, which especially on like the defensive side, we knew that was certainly the identity of the defense. I mean, i.e. Arion Carter and everything that he did last season. Seems the offense, maybe they're doing it last year, but they certainly this year seem to be taking on that model a little bit more this season. And the position coach and Glenn Ellerby has certainly taken notice of how much he's improved in his ability to like understand the playbook, to execute what he's learned in his mental game, to like be able to be productive in this practice up until week 2 of fall camp.
He spent as much time or more time than anybody meeting, walking through, understanding. There's still way more to keep going.
So there's no question, like in the I don't know, 6 to 8 months, depending on like the exact day that Sanders got here, like being able in that short time to put on nearly 40 pounds, to really be dedicated in the film room, to spend a lot of time and on his own, like getting in like some technique and some drill work. So like his footwork and his hands are always in the right spot, will certainly contribute to whether or not he can play or how much he will play on Saturdays for Tennessee, but he certainly has been somebody that continues to surpass these goals, right? Like the first goal was 290, now he's at 308, and how much of a grasp do you have of a game? Well, he's certainly spending so much time studying the playbook, and that certainly has like really helped him. Like you go back to that pitch we were talking about earlier, like has helped him like maximize the reps that he gets during fall camp.
He just like consistently every day is ticking off something and just keeps building and climbing and doing a great job.
We're here in week 2 of fall camp. I think, like we mentioned in the Monday episode, like there are aspects of practice that really start to get your attention or things that you'll notice. And maybe you could go back to, spring practice or spring training as well. Like the offensive line room has like made it a huge point to not necessarily like emphasize how close they are. Like it will just come up in conversation that like they'll hang out outside of practice or they do extra one-on-one work together. And that's when you realize like, okay, they're all trying to like elevate the floor of the room. And obviously competition is always great, regardless of how many positions and spots there is true competition in. You can see that like they want to be able to replicate what they did last year. They want the best for each other. And I think that up of itself tells you how close they are. He really got that from the then transfer and from LSU and Lance Hurd, who we've heard so much about and like in the leadership role that he's really blossomed into and the teammate that he really is. And another like case in point, you'll see that with David Sanders Jr. and Lance Hurd and how much one-on-one time that they have spent together and how much he's relied on Hurd, obviously being a starter in his first season when he was at LSU, like getting that massive playing time and what it took for him to get out onto the field as a true freshman and how much can David Sanders really learn from that, try to replicate that. And he says that like not only are they like, I don't know, like maybe like sharing notes in the film room, like they're together doing one-on-one work on the practice field, making sure that like Sanders has the technique and understanding down.
Just forcing me to be great. So I appreciate him for all the work he's put in for sure and just continuing to do so throughout fall camp because there's going to be me and him out there this year, hopefully.
So when you hear people talk about like, oh, Lance Hurd, like he's developed into this great teammate, he looks and sounds so much different than he was a season ago, and you get somebody who's like, give me an example. That can certainly be your proof and how much one-on-one time he's spending with his players, but that's not the only buddy in that room. And that goes to the earlier point about like the bond that they have. They want to raise the floor for everybody. They want to be really competitive. You could get to the other transfer, a current transfer from Notre Dame, and Sam Pendleton. He is somebody who has really like acclimated himself into this team, has woven himself into the fabric of the offensive line room that you really wouldn't suspect like he got here a couple of months ago. In fact, it feels maybe he got here a couple of years ago, the way that he's been able to like assimilate himself into the program and be somebody that the underclassmen or even his like equal parts can or counterparts can really rely on. And it goes to the same maybe sentiment that we got from Lance Hurd and like how much Sanders relies on Hurd is really how much they rely on Sam Pendleton as well. And of course he'll be in there at I think it's like the right tackle, but also maybe get some snaps at center, which obviously is a huge position to fill for Tennessee. And maybe he doesn't start there. Maybe he serves as like that primary backup and he'll do a good job at it. You go back to his last season at Notre Dame, and while of course on the field he wasn't at center, he was at guard, he had a lot of playing time at center. In fact, like 75% of his snaps in practice were at the center position. So he certainly feels comfortable there. And maybe his expertise and his versatility and his experience is all really appealing to David Sanders Jr.
Nobody ever came to me and said, you got to be our starter. And even today, like I'm running with the ones, but I still have to come in every single day and work because your spot can be taken by anybody. So
there's no question Sanders is certainly trying to be a sponge, from, the winter up in here until the fall and end of summer, I guess you could say, to really be somebody that Tennessee can rely on in 2025. And you can see in the way that he's relied on his teammates that they too are upping their game and they're wanting to be somebody that Tennessee can rely on, that they can count on, and that they'll deliver when they need to.
Yeah, Sam approaches the game in a very unique way. Like even in meetings, like it starts with that. Like he just approaches the game like a pro. Like if that's someone that's like he's gonna be a pro, like he's one of those guys.
gives off veteran experience. Like there's no question. Like he's the veteran presence in that locker room. And obviously it might be because he spent time at Notre Dame and you would transfer to another school with the expectation to be a starter or a primary role player. And that's exactly what they'll expect out of Pendleton here in 2025. And he too of himself should expect that as well. But his veteran sense also like it comes from within. It's not because like, oh, I've got, 3-4 years of playing experience. Like it's like in his heart of hearts, like he's an old soul. And a lot of that too could go back to what he revealed to us back in the spring, that like those 1980s Washington Commanders teams, like he wants to be like that offensive line. And that's back when they described their linemen as like the hogs, like, and just like the way that they played and how much they wanted to protect the backfield, protect their quarterback, didn't want people to get past him. He wears an old school mask, for goodness sakes. And it's that type of presence and mentality that Glenn Ellerby, for sure, as a lineman coach, like he certainly appreciates how much Pendleton enjoys being an offensive lineman.
I'm VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols.
Times few and far between. Like find somebody that enjoys the grind, enjoys the pain that shows up every day after practice, and then does it with a smile on his face and encourages the guys. Like that's pretty special.
And then because of that and the way that he carries himself, there's no question that young guys like David Sanders Jr. really want to emulate what Pendleton can do.
I want to be like that when I get older, like that leader type of guy. And he punishes people on the field, so I like Sam a lot. We sit next to each other in team and like unit meetings, so he's helping me out with the playbook as well.
Okay, earlier this morning it was day 6 of fall camp. We have those highlights back out on the homepage, and we'll have more reports coming up on Friday from fall camp as we get ready for Saturday scrimmage. So please make sure you turn on your notifications, and we'll talk to you guys later this week.